Nucleus has been grooming more people since my last video under the name Catchit. Hey Nucleus, it sure would suck if you were sending people your private Instagram from your Catchit account. Man, it sure would suck if you had the initials of the high school you went to in your bio, as well as multiple photos taken from your high school that could be used to cross-reference the two and figure out what school you went to. Man, it sure would suck if someone made an Instagram account pretending to go to your high school and messaged every single one of your followers asking for your full name, many of which are your actual classmates. Man, if someone did all that and sent all of the depraved things you've done to your school, your friends, and your local police department, that sure would suck for you, wouldn't it? Yeah, so basically Nucleus is fucked. He was recently re-exposed in the Album of the Year Discord community, once again folding under literally zero pressure. For some reason, he started posting some of his old Geometry Dash clips in that community, such as his 3SH and Hell completion, and a clip of him beating Spam Legend 9 times in a row. Now, for those of you who don't know, Spam Legend is a level that's basically solely associated with Nucleus and nobody else. Yet, for some reason, he was still surprised when people started calling him out for what he did in the Geometry Dash community as Nucleus, which, if you don't know, he was caught with over 800 files of CSAM. My first video on Nucleus, aka Catchit, will be linked in the description if you'd like to learn more about that. At first, when confronted about this, he tried to do some damage control and not cause a scene, saying, "I don't want to associate with it and I want to move on." Unfortunately for him though, his efforts were futile, as when someone asked what he did, they were told to quote, "search Nucleus GD exposed on YouTube." And when they did, they found my original video talking about his CSAM collection. The response from the rest of the server was expectedly shocked, but of course Nucleus still tried to save face, arguing that it was bad but not completely immoral, because according to him, it's exaggerated as fuck. It's not 851 photos of CP, it's him sexting with people his age a year ago and not doing it since. And honestly, that might be a little bit valid if he wasn't just straight up lying. He admitted to me in DMs after I uploaded my first video that he started trading underage photos at the age of 11 and stopped around when he turned 17. I also have new evidence that he was grooming multiple people since he told me that, and even if not explicitly sexting, he's been talking to minors at least as young as 14 flirtatiously. I'll go over the evidence for that in a later part of the video. His main argument for why this should be left in the past is that he's changed, but he clearly hasn't. There's no world in which he should be forgiven. He constantly misrepresents and lies about what happened to people who see him as a friend and is still doing weird groomer shit behind closed doors. Now, this next part of the video will only have written testimonies, as the people involved wish not to share further details. This means there will be no concrete evidence for the allegations brought forward in the next part of the video, but considering who Nucleus is as a person, I'll let you come to your own conclusions about if these actually happened. Nucleus started grooming this 14-year-old user, who I'll call User A, in early July of 2025. This was after he started getting exposed in the spam community, but before my first video spread his exposure to the greater GD community. He started venting to User A about the whole situation, except he misrepresented it terribly, making him look like someone who's grown, as if the situation he was in was redeemable. This is what he always does, and you can see it earlier in the video when he was trying to damage control what was happening in the AOTY server. User A, looking back on everything that Nucleus had done and said to her, said, "I do think there's some weird grooming stuff that led us into making this server together. I think he knew I was likely to look over it, and he really didn't want people to know he was Nucleus, so he fucking clicker trained me to call him Catchit or whatever." Note that the term clicker trained is being used in a metaphorical sense here, basically to represent a rigorous training. This user was trained to call Nucleus Catchit. User A followed this up saying he was generally kind of creepy towards me, but he gave me the impression that it was fine. He definitely used some romantic stuff too. She then mentioned how he would try to make little advances towards her, like once when she said, "I need a bad bitch." Nucleus responded by saying, "Me." Nucleus would then usually follow these little advances, saying things like, "Haha, I'd never date you because you're 14. These comments about Nucleus's behavior were then followed up by a realization from User A, with her saying, "I low-key got groomed, bruh." Later on, she also said, "He's fucking creepy, especially to alt women. He was always weird to me about it. He'd make these jokes like, 'You look like you beat men.'" Now, to add some context to that, Nucleus seems to have a sexual fetish of being manipulated. While a bit strange, there's nothing inherently wrong with that alone. It's just the people he tries to impose that fetish onto are unconsenting minors. At this point, Nucleus had gone through 5 of the 6 stages of grooming with user A. He selected his victim, gained access and trust, fulfilled her need for friendship and close connection, had her isolated as they were talking privately in Discord DMs, and he made certain that she would never bring up to anyone that he was Nucleus. And by the time he was re-exposed as Catchit, he was in the process of escalating the sexual contact that he kept initiating. We're lucky he couldn't keep escalating it to a more severe point, but of course what happened to user A is terrible, and Nucleus should be apprehended for it. Now, this is a great segue to talk about another person who he groomed, who I'll call user B. I was discussing Nucleus with user A in a public server when user B came forward to share her own experience with him, stating, "This is fucked. I thought this guy was cool. He literally let me vent to him." At which point I responded, "Yeah, that's a grooming tactic." Because if you remember from earlier, step 2 of the grooming process is building trust and access. She then replied to me saying, "Yep, exactly. I was 15 at the time. I've been groomed before, so it should have been obvious." I then asked her if she thought he groomed him, to which she replied, "I mean, he did try." User B doesn't want to share much more about what happened between her and Nucleus, as their conversations got quite personal, but it's important to note that in her eyes, whatever else may have happened between them was bad enough to be seen as grooming. Note that during both of these interactions, Nucleus was 17, almost 18, and these 14, 15-year-old girls saw him as simply a friend, not consenting to a lot of the weird shit he would often say. Trying to normalize progressively weirder and weirder shit is a key sign of grooming, which is why Nucleus would repeatedly make sexual and flirtatious remarks to these girls, even when unwanted. Other than these 2 cases of Nucleus grooming, I also received a few comments on my first Nucleus video after it was published. In one case, someone claimed that Nucleus was inappropriate to their 14-year-old girlfriend. In another, someone claims that Nucleus was doxing their family members. And in a third, someone alleges that Nucleus once admitted to robbery, credit card fraud, and vandalism, among other crimes, which would supposedly land him thousands of dollars in fines, felonies on his record, and 64 years in jail. What the fuck? Do with that what you will, I guess. Alright, now we're out of all of the alleged parts of the video, and are moving on to solely things with concrete evidence. Among other things, Nucleus has claimed to, quote, stumble upon CP rings at 12, which, like, how? How do you accidentally do that? And he's also claimed to scam pedophiles with images of, quote, petite 18 and 19-year-olds, which I personally find unlikely, since he literally had an 851 file folder of saved CSAM on his device, and he is very well known for misrepresenting horrible situations to make them sound bad but still redeemable. To me, Nucleus seems like a deeply insecure person. He hates himself so much for who he is that he seeks validation from others that maybe, just maybe, it's acceptable to have done what he's done. That's why he keeps bringing it up, but once people find out the truth, he can't get that validation because what he did is just so fucked. So he keeps misrepresenting what happened in the hopes that someone somewhere will believe him and give him the validation he so desperately yearns for. He's clearly not receiving as much attention as he wants, especially in his personal life, but it's just sad how that manifests into him being a manipulative, racist groomer gooner. Nucleus is at the very least a liar, a groomer, a manipulator, a racist, a transphobe, a homophobe, and an anti-Semite. Overall, he desperately needs a long break from life, a lot of time to reflect on things, and a really good therapist. And that's exactly why I decided to compile everything he's done into a document and send it over to his school, his friends, and his local police department. I dearly hope that he can take this as a learning opportunity and genuinely become a better person. Thank you to everyone who helped gather evidence along the way and build a strong case against Nucleus, especially Bike, who's actually okay with being credited for it.